Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Misty Corns, and I also have Liz McNeil on with me. Liz, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, hi everyone.
So Liz is actually going to help keep me in line, and she's also going to jump in and read off any questions that you guys type in that questions window box. But today, like all the webinars and trainings that I do, I'm always excited to do them. But today, I really am going to enjoy the webinar and training because it's basic reporting. It's reporting 101 in the new UI. So this new user experience that we've been talking about, we're going to get kind of take things back to the basics with basic reporting, just taking a look at that, how the new UI has affected reporting, and then some other bells and whistles that come along with it. Okay, so you guys, this training / webinar is really more geared towards your managers, administrators, anybody else that's on that's not a manager or administrator, welcome to stay. You'll get, just the managers and administrators are really going to have the most value out of the webinar due to security permissions and things like that. So we should only also take about 30 minutes for the webinar, of course, depending on those questions that you type into that chat window. So what the plan is, we're going to start just looking at a basic report, and then looking at the different, how things have been moved around with the new UI and where to find things, and basically how you create a report. And then we're going to take it a little bit of a step further, like I said earlier, and we're going to start building some charts from that report. And then we'll add those charts onto various dashboards so that you can really get some insight into what's happening with your company. And by the end of the webinar, you guys, you're going to really see how these charts are going to help you, really make business decisions based on what's happening within the company and within the system. Okay. All right. So just before I jump into the system, just a reminder, if you weren't on the last webinar, April the 30th is the deadline to convert all users. Now, this is all users for employees, managers, admins. Everybody needs to be on the new UI by April the 30th. There's a couple ways you can start using the new UI. Contact your CSR the way that you normally do, support@beyondpay.com, pick up the phone and call them. You can also go to our website, the top right-hand corner of beyondpay.com. There's a new UI button. Just click that button, complete some basic information, and that'll kick things off, and then we'll get things started. There is some settings and some functionality that would that would need to be configured. So we definitely want to get started earlier than later or closer to that April 30th date. So definitely reach out and get this started. Okay, so as I mentioned, I was actually gonna jump into a report. But let's just kind of look for a second under the hamburger menu before I get right into that report. If you missed the last webinar that we did, we talked about these icons, kind of tabs up at the top. We're going to be in the double person icon today because we're going to be managing things for our employees. So with the new UI, everybody, before converting to the new UI, you may have drop downs going across the top of your screen. The items now that were in the drop down across the top of your screen have been moved under the hamburger menu. Okay, so when I go into this time section, this is everything related to time and attendance. Okay, and I do have a lot of things turned on in my demo company. If you're not using time and attendance, that's okay. That's okay that you're not using it, but all of the different modules are kind of separated the way you're seeing here. So if you're using HR, you'll see HR here. If you're using payroll, you'll see payroll here. The drop downs open up, and then you have various options underneath those. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about reports. but I don't have to. Notice there's a report section here. The entire system is a report, so I don't always have to come to reports to get data. So I could, of course, come into time allocation and go in and look at a late early absent report and do all of these things that I'm about to show you. But I'm actually going to use the all timesheets report. So when I open this all timesheets report, well, before I do that, just really quick. So I could also, when using the new UI, I could also have a start widget here, and I could add all timesheets to this start widget here. So if I hover over time and attendance, here's the shortcut to that. Okay, any part of the system that is located under the hamburger menu, you could add as a shortcut on this start widget. Okay, it's pretty cool. You could also do a search up here for all timesheets. So opening up the all timesheets report, let's just kind of take a view of overall how the reporting works with the new UI. So we're all used to being able to change our rows on the page. When I want to change the rows on a page, I just click this page hyperlink. Basically, it opens up a window, and then I can change these settings based on how I want to see that. With the classic or the old UI, you could save reports. You're still going to be able to save those reports. To access those saved reports, you can come to the drop down here and hear all of the reports you've saved, as well as any reports anyone shared with you. As when I say any report, any report that's been created from this timesheet, I can access from here. Okay, so any version of this timesheet report I can access here. Anybody that's created a timesheet report and shared it with me, I would be able to come in here and see those shared reports. Okay, so now kind of moving across the top here, we have these grayed out buttons. So you can see view, reject, approve, submit. So if I wanted to approve timesheets on a mass scale, I could do that. Even though this is a report that we're using, I could click these three boxes here and say, you know what, I want to view these employees' timesheets. And it would let me toggle between these three employees' timesheets. I could also mass approve these timesheets. And one of the things I like to point out here when thinking about potentially using a report to approve timesheets is you want to make sure you have the right columns to help you know if you want to approve. So Erin has 80 hours. She has 8 hours, a little bit more than 8 hours of overtime. Maybe that's what I expected from Erin. Maybe that's what I don't need to drill down into her timesheet. I could just simply write from this report, approve this, okay, because I have that column of data there, okay. Now, I could also reject if I want to. Maybe this employee accidentally submitted their timesheet. I could reject. So these buttons, allow me to do those things. I can also check this box and choose everybody. So while this is a report, it's very interactive, if you will, and you can do some day-to-day things that you might need to do. So now over here on the to the right of submit, I also could print all of these timesheets. So if I wanted to, for some reason, have a paper copy of timesheets or provide an employee a paper copy, I could do that, okay? Now, just kind of moving along here, there's the date ranges. Timesheet reports and various other reports have specific date ranges that you can change. So when I click on the that looks like a little pill icon, it opens up my dates. So actually, it opens up my dates here where now I can say, hey, I want this by pay period, or maybe I want this report by calendar range. So I have the ability to set these by pay period. If you have multiple different types of pay periods, you can use those dates easily, toggle between pay periods and things like that. Okay, then you have various filters. If you wanted to filter this report, for just a certain list of employees, you could do that. You also have, notice, a couple other tabs up here. So you can use your filters above each column. Approval state, right above that is equals. If I wanted to see all open timesheets, I could put equals open here. But if I wanted to filter by multiple, then you can see I can just enter maybe approval state equals open. Maybe I want to see only employees with overtime hours. I could do, greater than 0, greater than or equal 0. So you still have those filter options. You also still have your custom option to add a custom column if you wanted to. So you're going to see this again in just a second, because with the new UI, you have a lot of ways to filter. When I click on this, it looks like a little filter, it opens the same options. Okay, so you can do that a couple different ways. And now is where we're starting to get a little bit into building some charts. So right now I'm only looking at data only, and this report probably looks pretty similar to what you're used to looking at now, but I actually want to see charts and data. So I'm just going to change this. So I haven't built any charts yet, but you can see that the screen is now kind of split in half. Okay, we're going to build a chart in just a second, so I'm just going to leave this setting the way that it is. Just one other area I want to review before we build a chart. You have these 3 dots here. These are additional actions. This is where you're going to be able to save different views. So earlier I showed you where you can click on the different views. Clicking on this little 3 dots, you're able to save different views. So if I were to make a change to this report, like add a column, so let's actually just go ahead and do that. So if I wanted to go ahead and add or remove a column, there's my option for that. And now I'm just gonna pull in an incomplete punch column. Okay, I'm just typing in. You could also scroll through that list, and I'm gonna move this up here. And now I'm going to go ahead and apply. So now I have my incomplete punches. You can see I've got a couple of those, and that's all useful information, right? But I'm having to scroll. I'm having to scroll through, data that I don't really, maybe all I'm worried about is incomplete punches on this, for this particular view. So what I want to actually do is build a missing punches chart for this report. Okay, so let's do that. So here we have halfway down the screen, here we have some three little dots above the charts. Now I want to add a chart here. Okay, so first up here at the top, we have several different options for the chart type. Okay, I'm going to just keep this horizontal. And what I want to do is pull in my category. Now, the main thing about building charts is the column has to be in the report. So if you haven't added the column in the report, your options here are not going to be what you need them to be, as well as the x-axis. Okay, so what we want to actually look at is I'm just going to choose by employee first name. You could do this by manager. You could do this, however you wanted the report. But for today, I'm just going to choose first name. And you could add multiple columns here, maybe first name and approval state. You wanted those together. So you could add more than one type of y-axis or category if you wanted to. And depending on the chart type, that determines kind of what you can do with these categories, as well as the metric, as well as the value calculation. So, and you will also notice, depending on what you choose in each one of these sections, things might change. So like if I'm looking at a date column, it might ask me how I want that date column grouped. So you'll notice as you're building these, things will change, so that makes it really intuitive to use. All right, so we'll stick with what we have. And I just want a count. I don't really need anything to add together. So I'm just going to say, tell me how many employees have incomplete punches. I want to go ahead and just display all of my labels here. And the title automatically populates with a name. I find myself editing these a good bit. So I'll just say missing punches by employee name. Okay, so you can label that really easy. Now I'm just going to go ahead and save this. Okay, not a very pretty report, right? So let's edit it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click back into this. Now that I've got a chart here, now I can edit it if I needed to. So let's say I want to see, let's see, missing punches by manager, and I want it to be a vertical chart. And I don't want it to be a count, I want it to be a sum. Okay, and so I'm just kind of going through here and I'm editing it. Okay, so now I'm seeing that I've got Gary Scott is my manager. He's got 3 employees with missing punches. Okay, when I click on this chart, this information, it's going to open up, let's see. Let me back up for 1 second. I'm just going to actually take out that filter. So typically you would be able to drill down into this and see just the records that you're looking at. So there's a filter in here I might need to adjust. But you can see that I can go ahead and come into this and edit. I'll go ahead and add back my employee first name. I'll just do a count here again, and I'm going to take out these labels. Okay. All right. So I've already created one of these charts with missing punches. So let's go ahead and add the chart to this time dashboard for the missing punches. So kind of looking at these tabs across the top, this time tab here is any chart that I've built that's related to the time module. So if I wanted to pull in a time chart for the time module, I would come here. The same for if I was looking to pull in a chart for the HR module, I would come to the HR tab. Okay, so let's add a missing punches. I'm going to go to timesheets. I'm going to add the chart that I've already created. I'm going to go to timesheets. And I'm actually going to go to the all timesheets. So I'm basically searching for that report that I created, and I'm going to add that chart to the dashboard. Okay, so this is actually how that missing punches report, where I was kind of creating it, how I was kind of create it. So now what I want to do is actually drill down into this missing punches from the dashboard and actually see this detail. So let's look at that now that I've got a better missing punches time chart here. So these are my missing punches for pay period 3/2 through 3/15. Okay, now let's kind of drill down into this a little bit better. Now I can see that Nellie has a missing punch, and if I click on this chart, it's going to drill down into Nellie. So I apologize if that earlier was a little confusing. So now you can see how building a chart with the data that's going to give you insight into what's happening within the system allows you to drill down further and see, granular detail if you need to. Okay, so just going back to the dashboard really quick. These tabs across the top, so the idea behind the reporting and the charts is to, number one, give you insight into your information, but give it to you easily. So if I wanted insight into attendance tracking, if I wanted insight into timesheets, the approval process of those, or overtime, I'm able to do that. But I create these reports or these charts using reports. So once you create that report, you create the chart, and then you assign it to the dashboard to give you that insight. Okay, so we can do things like compliance. So salary equality and things like that, it's a big topic right now. So we could pull information that is on an employee's record related to salary, related to gender, related to all of that, create a chart, add it here. We could also turnover information, OSHA reporting, all of those kinds of things we can pull into charts, EEO detail. Okay, then we have our payroll. So I've already created some charts here, but you can see I've got gross payroll from last year. But if I come back over to the hamburger menu here, and I'm just going to minimize the time section, and I'm going to go into the payroll section. You probably go into process payroll a good bit. Okay, if I go to process payroll, as you can tell, I've already got charts built here. If I wanted to take a look at these settings, here I can go ahead and do edit. You can see that these settings, I'm looking at the payroll status, what was the latest action, and then I'm giving myself a count. So what this type of chart helps me do is click right into the payrolls that I need to process. But I've got some additional charts here that tell me what's happened within my payrolls, like these deductions, gross payrolls. So if I wanted to go ahead and finish up working on the payroll that I've already started, I'm just drilling down into this. Instead of putting a filter in or scrolling through data, I'm able to, again, filter. This is the payroll that I'm processing now. I'm in the middle of processing it. I'm going to go ahead and open that payroll up. I can also see what the gross amount is for this payroll currently. Okay. Another example that I wanted to talk about is under my team, employee information. So, of course, looking at the employee information, is a list of your employees. It tells you, you can click into this and look at a lot of, detail on an employee, basically that employee file or employee account. But this is actually giving me some insight into that information. So I've pulled in a bunch of columns here. And I'm now seeing, hey, Aaron Schofield is a manager, and he has 17 employees that report to him. Okay, if I wanted to drill down into Gary Scott's 20 employees, I'm just clicking into this. Now notice I can see that, Gary is responsible for these departments. Okay, and I can see that he's got 9 employees who are in Albany. Okay, and then I can also see that all of his employees are all active. He's never terminated anyone. Okay, we can run turnover, we can create turnover reports and charts to give you insight into things like that also. Okay, so once we create these charts, again, we do a save as or a save view, and then when you come into your tabs across here, you're ready to add those charts. If I wanted to add the employee information, I'm just going to search for that employee information. Now I'm just doing a little bit of a review for you. I'm going to search for the report that I've created and saved. And once I choose that report, depending on the chart that I've built, I'll see those charts here, and then I could just simply add that chart here. Okay, and now I'm just getting that insight, and of course I could drill down like I've shown you already. All right. All right, so I'm sorry I jumped around just a little bit, but as you can see, like, it's super easy to, of course, build those reports. And then with a little tweaking, playing around with those charts, you're able to get the chart to look the way that you want, with different types of charts, and then assign those to your dashboard, giving you that insight into, again, what's happening with your company. So Liz, do we have any questions that came in so far?
We do.
Okay.
So you briefly touched on payroll reports. Are there any more useful payroll reports than what we touched on? Can you give a few more examples maybe?
Yes, so year-to-date payroll reports. So any of the reports that are within the system, you're able to run year-to-date, quarter-to-date reports, deductions, benefit reports. If you think about any of the data that you're capturing and that you're paying an employee, we're able to build these charts from those reports.
Perfect. Another question is, can I create and share dashboards with managers?
Certainly can. So we're on the My Dashboard tab, and you can see that I've got different versions of the dashboard. So we've talked a lot about building reports and adding charts to the reports, and I've shown you how you can add charts to dashboards, but you could also save dashboards. And you could also manage the views. So who can see this? You can share this with various users.
Awesome.
Okay. And keep in mind, if you create a report and you do share that report, it's all controlled around security. If the employee doesn't have access to see that report, then they're going to get a little notice that, hey, this report's shared, but you can't see it. So you don't have to worry about sharing something, with someone and then being able to see something that they shouldn't.
Right. Also, another question that came in is, where do I access all of my saved reports?
Okay, so there's a lot of places that you can do that. I showed you one, but there is another area. And this was recently added to the new UI. So if I go back to the hamburger menu, on the single person icon, there's also My Reports and then My Saved Reports. Okay, but if I am on the actual like my employee information here, any versions of employee information reports that I've created and saved, they're going to be also available under here. So this is also my saved views for this particular report, where this single person icon is really just for your reports and my saved reports.
Very good. I also have a question. Can I resize columns in the new UI?
Great question. Absolutely. So just like Excel, you can drag columns, and this is with the new UI. This is new. So if I hover between these two columns, you can see that I can click and drag. So this is exciting. So yes, absolutely.
Cool. That looks like all the questions that came in so far.
Okay. All right. So if anybody needs any help with building their charts, if you need a little bit more detailed information on how to do this, definitely reach out to your CSR. Let us know that you're interested in rolling the new UI out if you haven't already. Right now we're definitely able to do this, build out your charts, roll out the new UI at no cost. So definitely let us know when you're ready to do that. But April the 30th is that deadline. So hopefully everyone will get converted to the new UI and get some of these charts built well before that. So, okay, let us know if you have any questions, and thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks.